Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Lacombe Council regular meeting for Monday, September the 22nd. It's 5:30 p.m. and I will call the meeting to order. Council, you have an opportunity to review the agendas with respect to the consent agenda. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I am wondering if we can remove the Chief Administrative Officer monthly report.
Good. Anyone else? Councillor Dallas.
Thank you. Well, I do this, I guess. Was there anybody else that wanted to pull it? Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
You. Please go ahead and vote. That is unanimously approved. Thanks, everyone. With respect to the overall agenda, one request, just going to say made from Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I would like to add an in-camera item, and I'm guessing it would be.
So we would have that item 8.4, labor. Anyone else? Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll make the motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you. One final opportunity for input. Very good. Please go ahead and vote. Item has been added in, and that was unanimously accepted for the overall agenda. And we'll go back to the consent agenda. Chief Administrative Officer monthly report. Councillor, sorry, who was it? Councillor Dallas, go ahead.
Great, thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just noticed in there, and I wasn't sure how to bring this up, but there was the discussion regarding the school zone time adjustment for Terrace Ridge. And I'm just curious, I'm assuming that comes back to council if there was adjustments to the time to be made on that, or request was made. But I guess if that does come back to council, or if it's an administrative decision, just curious if we could look at including an option to creating school zone times that are continuous throughout the day without the variances in middle, the on and offs.
Gio Gowdy.
Change will traffic file. That's already. Got it right now. Okay. Lightning board.
Thank you for that, CEO Gowdy. Just to be clear for the members of the public, they'll be watching, don't any confusion that all the existing times will stay as is until any such changes are contemplated by council at a later date then.
Yes, that's right. And as always, good job of this. Even if it's 7:45.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Casey, and thank you for that response. And motion to accept the CAO month.
Very much. Just to be sure, there was no other comments, that item that was singled out for, or I guess with the report overall, was there any other concerns, questions? Good. Councillor Dallas, please go ahead and vote. Item 6.1. Senior Development Officer Kirk is be leading us through the item here on bylaw 532, the Owens Residence Municipal Historic Designation. And whenever you're ready, remind you to turn on the microphone. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Tracy. Great. So I am Senior Development Officer Jennifer Kirk, and I will walk you through bylaw 532. The purpose of this bylaw is to designate the Owen residence as a municipal historic resource located at 5210 53rd Street. The Historic Resources Act of Alberta allows municipalities to designate our buildings and protect them. Under the Act, there are several steps required for a designation. We are currently on step number 6 with final council readings. If it's approved, then the designation bylaw will be registered on the land title and the site will be added to the Alberta Register of Historic Places. Lacombe is very fortunate to have 16 municipally designated sites. If approved, the Owen residence will be number 17. We've got some before and current pictures for you guys. Owen residence is an elegant example of a simple national folk style with some craftsman features. So while some original deteriorated elements were sensitively replaced, the residence has retained most of its original elements, that being the front door, window casing materials, horizontal beveled siding all around the house, brackets supporting eaves, the front entry, and the projecting gable roof, and interior elements such as doors, fir door frames, fir casings with fillet bead trim below the head trim, fir plinth blocks, tall fir baseboards, and the narrow quarter sawn oak hardware floors in the living and dining room. Owen residence has heritage value for its connection with first owner and occupant, businessman Percy C. Owen. So he moved to Lacombe in 1906 and worked as a secretary for Morrison and Johnston Hardware for 30 years, served on the Lacombe District Hospital Board and the Lacombe District Board of Trade. He was also a town councillor from 1931 to 1939. He lived in the house until his death in 1943. In 1944, the home was sold to Claude and Jean Gillies, who owned and operated the Empress Hotel. And subsequent owners include Dr. J.D. McFretbridge, who worked at the Lacombe Medical Center, Bill and Garlo Beckenkamp, H. Miller, and the president owners D. Preston and J. Gillies, who purchased the home in 2015. It is recommended by administration and the Heritage Resources Committee that council give second and third reading to bylaw 532 as presented to designate the Owen residence as a municipal historic resource. Thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Development Officer Kirk. Councillor Gullickson.
I'd just like to say thank you for the presentation. It's another beautiful home we're adding to the list, and hopefully we'll get many more. I'm very excited about these being added. I think they bring something special to Lacombe. So I'm more than happy to make the motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 532 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Gullickson. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I don't think it matters, but that property is for sale. Does that change anything or no, or, yeah, thank you.
So through the chair to Councillor Connick, that doesn't change a whole lot. The current owners are being very transparent about the designation. We've had a couple interested parties contact me to find out about it. There's been no concerns that I'm aware of, and the current owners want to proceed with this to protect what they've done to the property. So, yeah.
Thank you, Pam. I see that it's pending, so I'm just wondering if the new potential owner is aware, but that's fine. I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Councillor Connick, but I think that's the way with every designated property is going to, I think if we're being realistic, is going to be sold someday. So, yeah. Fair enough. Thank you. Anyone else? With respect to second reading, the motion before us, please go ahead and vote then. Second reading is passed unanimously. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. It's my computer. I would like to make a motion that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 532 at the same meeting as the second reading.
Any input in that item? Please proceed to vote. It flashed through pretty quickly. I believe that it is unanimously in favor and support of that possibility. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So I'll move along and say that I would like to move that council give third reading to bylaw 532 as presented.
Looks like an equal number of lights on that item. Please proceed to vote. And that is unanimously supported for third and final reading. Congratulations, Development Officer, can extend that to the HRC. Yeah. Acting Manager Mitchell, I understand that you're going to be presenting to us item 6.2, secondary suite comparator report. And whenever your documents are ready to go, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy, and good evening, members of council. Tonight, I'm presenting council with the results of an analysis on the allowable size of secondary suites in Lacombe as assessed against 13 other municipalities, including those in our region and our recognized comparators. This report was initiated based on a notice of motion from May 12, 2025 that directed administration to return with a comparative analysis of the regulations around secondary suites on R1 lots, specifically the allowable size of secondary suites. The report found that overall, Lacombe's regulations relating to height and size for the R1 residential detached district generally fall in the middle range amongst our comparators. In regards to floor area, Lacombe allows garage and garden suites up to 70 to 75 square meters, which is equal to approximately 750 to 810 square feet, for those of you who still speak that language. Internal suites, or those contained within the primary residence, are limited to 90% of the main floor area. This regulation aligns well with 5 of our comparators. The remaining 8 municipalities vary widely, showing no regional consensus. Lacombe also limits the height of garage and garden suites to a maximum of 9 meters, or half a meter shorter than the principal dwelling. This is on the higher end of the spectrum when compared to our neighboring municipalities, who tend to range from 7 to 9 meters, with 2 outliers on either end of the spectrum. It is important to note, however, that the maximum of half a meter shorter than the principal dwelling will govern if the principal building is a single story. This prevents a 9-meter tall garage or garden suite from being constructed behind a bungalow or split-level home. Finally, when considering parcel coverage, Lacombe aligns closely with 4 of the 13 comparators by allowing 55% of the lot to be covered by principal and accessory buildings. Once again, the remaining municipalities vary greatly with ranges from 30 to 90% allowable coverage. Once again, Lacombe lands somewhere in the middle. The report did not highlight any specific concerns with Lacombe's regulations regarding secondary suites. However, it did identify some phrasing in the land use bylaw that lacked clarity and could lead to confusion or frustration for those looking to develop a secondary suite. In addition, the focus of this report was primarily on height and area regulations for secondary suites in the R1 district. The consultant noted that it could be valuable for Lacombe to take a broader look at all the regulations relating to secondary suites in both R1 and other districts to consider other aspects of affecting suite development, such as density and parking requirements. For this reason, and depending on the new council's housing goals and priorities, secondary suites will be explored more fully as a strategic opportunity for innovation improvements planned during the 2026 land use bylaw review. Positioning secondary suites this way allows council to align regulatory updates with broader housing objectives and community needs. At this time, administration recommends that council acknowledge the secondary suite comparator report on R1 lots as information. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Councillor Gullickson?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I know a lot of communities are moving to like allowing just any kind of suite in any location and any numbers. Did you look at numbers per block kind of in this also? How did we compare there?
That's a great question. I don't have a comparison amongst other municipalities, but I can tell you that Lacombe generally allows up to 12% of the neighborhood, and it's kind of based on we call it a block, but it's a set number of homes in a row. They're allowed 12% secondary suites. I just saw in the paper that Red Deer's is at 15%, but that's the only one I know offhand because that's relatively new information. And then we also do allow for that to be overridden if in the outline plan that the developer puts together, they specifically identify areas and in their development for secondary suites, they can have up to 50% secondary suites in those developments. To date, only Ready and the Henners Heights subdivisions have made allowances for secondary suites.
And so, and everybody will know that going into those districts that they're allowed. So it's not a surprise then, correct?
That is one of the areas that probably could use a little bit of additional cleanup in the land use bylaw to provide a little bit more clarity around this. If you know where to look, you can find that information. And I think it is written fairly clearly, but the average person might struggle to find that.
Okay, can I question Councillor Connick on that?
Please proceed, yeah.
Councillor Connick, is that news to you, or did you know that as a realtor, that those areas were 50%?
Yeah, I think Manager Mitchell had highlighted it. I don't think it's a well-known fact, but I think that's an area that we need to, as you mentioned, maybe clean up a little bit. I mean, we know about the percentage per block, but yeah. I did not realize,
Was that high? Okay, yeah. Thank you for that. That's what I was looking for, because I know some areas they can put as many as they want in, like, I think Edmonton and Calgary are that, are they not?
Some municipalities are definitely moving that way. They call them mortgage helpers or that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On that note, Manager Mitchell, is that something that it would be a register or could be registered on title at the time of lot creation? The only reason I ask that is because that is, it is a problem letting people know that is in fact available to the entire subdivision. And I don't think the numbers would be very great for the owners that even had any inkling that was the case. I'm not saying the information isn't available, but it is kind of a big deal. It has been proven contentious at times in other parts of our community. And in future, I would wondering what the mechanism would look like, because in fact, it is important when it is on the outline plan to have that registered on title, just as another level of caution so that owners were in fact well aware of that possibility.
So this is an area where it does have to be noted in the outline plan, and the locations have to be identified by the developer in the outline plan. So there can be a map provided that clearly indicates where these secondary suites would be permitted as opposed to discretionary use. So permitted, we pretty much have to give them a permit if they meet all of our conditions within our bylaw, whereas discretionary, that's what most other areas in the city would fall under discretionary use, where we would have a consultation process. So I do see the importance of kind of putting that out there. Definitely when we do this review, we can look at things like secondary suites, maybe doing a page on our website. I will look at Director Hackett as to if there's a way to register something like that on title.
Thank you, Manager Mitchell and Mayor Creasy. I'm not familiar with it being registered on title. We certainly have development agreements that we register where we have an interest in seeing something built in the area, or we have a financial relation. But I think that we could explore it in the review. There may be other tools, like registering to land title might be one. There might be other tools that in the sales agreement, or that we can make it more clear to people the amount of suites in the area.
Thank you. I would certainly be interested in seeing those options brought forward. And there again, I'm not suggesting the city has not been diligent in putting these types of things out to the public, whether it's through the outline plan or the other method that you had mentioned as well. That's not the point. The issue that I have with it is the average homeowner does not go looking at city documents when they're purchasing a home. It just, perhaps Councillor Connix had a different type of clientele that has, I don't know, but I just can't imagine the vast majority of public even considering that to be something they would ever look for. And it does affect them in a way that is perhaps a little more important than some of the items. So whatever the way that we can designate it and make it perfectly clear to them, I would certainly like to have a look at it myself. And I think others would as well. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Casey. I guess I don't really have any questions, though. The one comment is these sizes for floor area seem okay to me, seem acceptable. I guess I was curious about the 90% of the main floor area. And I know I lived in a bungalow and my basement was the exact same size as my main floor. And I'm just curious, I guess I do have one question. Why is there that 10% reduction of why the basement couldn't match what the main floor was? And then my other comments on this are just regarding the heights. Actually, I quite like these rules, and I know it said we were kind of on the higher end of the outliers, but I think as long as your secondary building is not going to be higher than your primary one, then that seems quite okay with me. The only concerns I see with that is you maybe have 2 bungalows on each side of a 2-story, and then you have a giant 2-story garage, right, or secondary facility suite right in between those two, and it may look out of place, but I don't think it would be a true problem with this. And then I do like the 55% parcel coverage. We do have large lots, so I think that does leave a lot of opportunity for people to build what they need in certain areas. But I've seen other communities where the parcel coverage is significant between a concrete driveway in the front, a concrete driveway in the back for the second one, and then there's just a sidewalk running between them. And those, to me, they just look very out of place. They look very unappealing to the community. And I do understand that they provide a service and a need for housing, but I like this percentage of coverage. So thank you.
Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So just a few more comments, if I may. Your comments about title, I think that's something to explore. I've never seen it. I don't know if it'd be classified as an easement or encroachment. It wouldn't be one of those things, but it's something worth exploring. In terms of secondary suites, I know I'm dealing with this now with the property in Black Falls where, and I've looked at Lacomb's terminology for secondary suites and their definition for dwelling as well. And you reference it here that Alberta Building Code says that requirements require electrical service, independent utility systems, and so forth. Yet, for example, both Lacombe and Black Falls don't make mention of independent utility systems. So there's some confusion there, even within my own business. Okay, is it truly a legal suite when it doesn't have its own furnace? Alberta Building Code says no, yet both the definition for Lacombe and Black Falls, for example, they don't reference that. So I think that's an area that maybe needs to be tightened up. Are we going to adhere to the building code? Are we not? Because that can lead to some confusion when people are buying these homes because they don't know entirely if it's actually a legal suite. The municipality says so, but it would seem to indicate that maybe it's not. And I think the biggest challenge with all of this is just the sheer number of illegal suites. I mean, I don't know how you even tackle that problem. I mean, you talk about density, but I can guarantee you there are parts of this town where we're way over already on density because of illegal suites. And again, that's something that unless somebody says something or notices something about volume of cars parked or whatever, they don't even come on our radar. And yet, so this is terrific that we're trying to do something with legal secondary suites. The biggest challenge, and I don't know the answer to that, is the illegal suites and how do you tackle that? But anyway, this is a good step forward, but yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this report. I do appreciate this. I feel like this is a topic that constantly adds to friction within the community. So it's definitely something that we need to address. I do really want to highlight in the memo, it talks about obviously the aspects that were considered in this report, but further considerations being parking requirements in particular. I would say that that's a significant cause of friction when it comes to somebody in the community trying to bring, a secondary suite to their property, and further to parking requirements, traffic, and that's traffic both on the front as well as down the back alley. So I just want to highlight those as being considerations for when this comes back to council to really flesh out what that might look like, to make sure that we really address those two issues because they're valid, and I think that we can do better. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I will make the recommended motion that council acknowledge the secondary suite comparator on R1 lots reported as information.
Thank you. Other lights on, please go ahead and vote. And that was supported unanimously in favor. So we'll move on now. Director Piche has for us item 6.3, the 2026 franchise fee rates for electricity only.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy, and good evening, Council. This evening, administration is presenting the electricity franchise fees for your consideration. Normally, both natural gas and electricity are presented at the same time. However, the City of Lacombe and ATCO Gas are in the process of renewing their 10-year natural gas franchise agreement. The renewal process for the agreement is quite detailed. It requires the bylaw first reading and getting some advertising done, doing an approval by the Alberta Utilities Commission, then going through second and third reading, and then signing the final agreement. It started on August 11th, and it'll actually carry through until November. So because of this, we are presenting the electricity franchise fees on its own at this time. So the franchise agreements allows for ATCO Gas and Fortis Alberta to be sole distributors of those utilities within the city limits. In return, the city receives compensation in the form of franchise fees. These fees account for granting access to municipal right-of-ways, coordination of work, and legal provisions that restrict competitors. The franchise fees are based on utility revenues. Historically, the rates were unchanged for almost 15 years, but in 2018, an analysis showed that Lacombe was well below the comparator municipalities. So adjustments were made in 2019 to align the rates with the median of the municipal comparators. So administration now reviews these rates annually at the end of the third quarter. In September 2023, Council set the 2024 electricity rate franchise fee at 17.63%, and that rate aligned with the median comparator at the time, and it has remained unchanged since then. However, when doing the comparators for 2026, the median has increased to 19%. The Alberta Utilities Commission, pardon me, franchise fees, they cap out at 20% for electricity. Administration does recommend that Lacombe continues targeting the median rate as the municipal comparators, and that would be increasing from 17.63% to 19%, and it would increase an estimated municipal revenue of $133,114. Increase to the average household monthly contribution would increase by $1.22 based on 625 kilowatts per use. At any rate, to change the franchise fees, these must be advertised publicly to meet the Alberta Utilities Commission requirements. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll make that motion. The council gives, sorry, back up. My apologies, I skipped ahead. The council sets the 2026 electricity Fortis Alberta franchise fee for the city of Lacombe at 19%.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I do not like these franchise fees. I don't like them for electric utilities, and I don't like them for gas utilities. And I see another light on here, and I feel like I'm pretty confident, and I know where they're going to. If we're going to use these, this is a cash cow that's going to run out, where we can't just keep increasing it to increase funds in our bank account. If we're going to increase it to 19%, why not just put it to the max right now and then be over with this forever and never have it come back? The value will go up as users increase, and it is a usage fee. But again, this is just us passing a tax collection onto another agency for them to hand it back to us. So I would argue that we leave it at the same value, and I am interested in leaving the other utilities at the same value. And we can maintain this as an affordability that when somebody looks at how much you have to pay for utilities here, that can cancel out maybe something else that's more expensive to live here versus another community. But I say we leave it the same, or we just max it out and it never has to come back for another person to look at again. Because the only other way I see us getting rid of this is a 10% property tax increase, and we can set these to zero going forward and just have stable funding. So I guess I'll wait and see what Councillor Gullickson has to say on this, but I will probably be looking to make an amending motion on this after. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dallas. Councillor Gullickson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Well, you're absolutely right. I feel the same way, that it's just a tax. And I also think that if we're going to do it, we should be at the top. Forget about this fooling around all the time, and make sure our citizens are well aware that it is what it is. It's a tax. It's not we're taking the money. So it is part of our tax system. We say it's a fee, but that's incorrect in my mind. So I also agree that it should be at the top.
Councillor Konik.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. My question is to CEO Gotti. These funds, do they just go into, where do they go? Is it operating reserve? Is it general operating?
General operating.
CEO Gowdy, this system of franchise fees, I think, came about to try and help communities offset the costs that utilities for having access to areas of the community to work on something that in fact they do operate for profit. And I'm curious, what is it that changes for us to keep increasing fees? How do we justify that to the public?
So you're right, it is actually meant, you could characterize it as a tax grab. I mean, everything's a tax grab. You need taxes to provide services. And in this case, because these utilities are given exclusive right to use the municipal rights of way rather than acquiring their own rights of way on private land, which other utilities such as telecommunications may have to do, rather than purchase the land or pay a rental fee on the land, there's this franchise fee given. Why does it change? I mean, you can understand why usage changes it, of course, but why does it seem to go up? It's actually largely because the proposal that you spoke of there of like, let's just make it to the max, get it over with and be done, actually keeps occurring in some of your comparable communities. There are municipalities every few years that do this exact thing, actually say, I'm sick of talking about it, just, let's remove this from the annual game of dialing it to whatever. It's not that the benefit actually grows in benefit year to year for the franchise holder, right? They get access to the same land. And so it's a matter, when we talked about it in 2018, I think you said, we said actually kind of the opposite of what you said, Councillor in Dallas. They're like, well, nobody notices $1 difference in the combined electrical and gas bills of when they're choosing which community to go to. It's where you get your job, and that's where you live lots of times. But they do maybe look at what services you're providing. And there was other nearby municipalities that were gathering more than $1 million more per year through this mechanism than Lacombe was. And so that's significant. You could provide like another facility or a transportation service or something based on that extra revenue. And so to remain competitive in that way of like service provision, I think was largely why council decided, well, you know what, I wish it were all zeros. And I agree with that. It's way more efficient to just tax through one than, what's the phrase, than fuck the chicken however many times you can before it squawks. It's easier to just take a big handful of feathers. But this is how everybody's doing it in your comparable group. And so it's about kind of looking like other municipalities too, so that when people are comparing, they know that they're comparing apples to apples as much as possible.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I appreciate the explanation. I think the public deserves to hear that too. And so I just, I think, I don't know. I really, really dislike this. And, it's out there, it's public, but I do know that people are discussing these things. And yeah, maybe it's just $1.22 now, but it's always, it could be, if we put it up another one, it's $2.50. It's just, I hate this. I would rather just us keep it the same, not deal with this, and we can make plans otherwise. But so my amending motion would be to maintain the current franchise fee at 17.63% and evaluate the sorry, the franchise policy.
Thank you. Like many of you, the system that we have come up with, or that we have to work within here is a poor one, but in fact, that is what we have to work with. I'm more of the thinking to max it out like most of or many of our comparator communities are at 20%, and in fact, be done to talking of it. This just seems like we're rip off the Band-Aid a little bit at a time, and 17.63 or 17.89 or 18.1. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And for those reasons, I would be tempted to go the other way than what you had suggested and just be done with it. It appears like an underhanded way to tax everybody. I don't see it as that way because of the reasons which I think most of us in this room knew that CIO Gaudi went through. If those companies did in fact have to secure their own rates of way throughout the city, you can be guaranteed that your rates would be far in excess of what they would with this 20% franchise fee, hidden tax, whatever you want to call it, than what in fact it is there. So that would be my only thought, is that we consider, as was suggested by the mover of this one, that we consider maxing out on the 20 and being done with it. But I appreciate everybody's different thoughts on this, and we all seem to be equally happy with the fact that it is the system that we have to work within. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Historically, I think we as council have relied on our comparators and taken the mean average with many other discussions of agendas. I guess my question to either CIO Gaudi or Director Piché is, what is the actual dollar value to increase? Because coming time when we start talking operational, approximately every $170,000 or $75,000 is a 1% tax increase. So it's either deal with it now, or like you say, we're dealing with it later in operational discussions of budget. But what is the total value so that citizens know it's still a number that reflects operational? What would that total approximately be of reflected from the difference of percentage?
I'm sorry, can I just confirm, are you asking for the total amount of revenue that we receive for this?
No, the difference between 17.63 and 19 or 20, because bottom line, this is operational, as Director Gaudi just explained earlier. So if whatever revenue we don't generate from an increase is going to face us later for budget deliberations, it's revenue. So where it's opposite. So it's, you deal with it now through this or later in budget deliberations.
So Director Piché, for a 1% franchise fee increase, I think we all appreciate that the quantity of electricity is a variable, but approximately how much revenue would that result in for this city?
So for this amount, this difference of the 1.27% is $133,000. So it'd be roughly maybe $100,000 is roughly what I would estimate that for 1% difference.
Thank you. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. And you were bang on. That's exactly what it says in the agenda here. So good work. We are seeing no benefit to the electrical consumer by doing this. And there is no impact to the revenue of the gas company because this cost is just, and to the other point of us making up $133,000 later on, it's like, well, is that here because the budget has already said we're short $130,000, and so we're like, this is the dial to crank, or was this just adjusted based on our policy that we have? And so I don't want to make the argument that if we don't put this $133,000 in the bank account tonight, that we're going to have a shortfall later. And so I guess that's my query on this is, I don't believe that's the case, and we can budget accordingly based on that. So thank you.
CAO Gaudi.
So we had our first budget kickoff, once all the materials in today to look at that first cut. I wish 133 closed the gap. That would be excellent. Right now with the budget sitting where it's at, we're at like a 5.9% tax increase, somewhere around there. Now, often that's really consistent with what we're here, where we're at this point in the budget deliberation process. That's not unexpected. I'm confident we'll get to the 2.8 that was directed in the summer, but that includes this revenue, our current cut, this revenue. So it will be it's going to be a challenging budget year.
Thank you for that, CAO Gaudi. Maybe my memory isn't the best, but I don't recall a year when we have not had a challenging budget year, but point taken. Not seeing any more lights on. All good. We do have a motion before us. Just so everyone is clear, I'll ask the legislative coordinator to read it one more time.
Okay, the amending motion on the floor is that council amend the motion to set the 2026 electricity FortisAlberta franchise fee for the city of Lacombe at the current rate of 17.63%.
No more input. Please proceed to vote. And that is supported by a margin of 5-2. Councillors Ross and Creasy voting no. Yes. So that was the amending motion. Who made the original motion? Yeah. Councillor Ross had made the main motion, and just so once again to avoid confusion, I would ask that the legislative coordinator read the main motion into the record.
Okay, the motion on the floor is that council sets the 2026 electricity FortisAlberta franchise fee for the city of Lacombe at the current rate of 17.63%.
That we would already just. I'm seeing no more lights on here. You got the motion before you. Please proceed to vote. And that is unanimously accepted, endorsed rather. Manager McKinnon's all ready to go there for item 6.4, the bylaw 531 line of credit.
Thank
The
you.
floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council.
Tonight, council is being asked to consider second and third readings of bylaw 531, which reauthorizes the city's operating line of credit. The city has historically maintained a $3.5 million line of credit to manage any seasonal fluctuations in cash flow. The previous authority under bylaw 486 expired in February 2024. The city's largest source of revenue is property taxes and mostly collected in June. Operating costs such as payroll, supplier payments, and contracts occur year-round, creating some timing gaps. Bylaw 531 renews the city's $3.5 million operating line of credit, which helps manage any seasonal cash flow needs. The line of credit also prevents the need to cash out investments, supporting stable operations. Key points of the bylaw are it reauthorizes the maximum borrowing limit of $3.5 million, establishes Service Credit Union as a lender, authorizes the mayor and CEO to execute any borrowing agreements. Borrowing is repayable on demand with interest charged at service prime less 0.5%, and ensures rapid repayment from current revenues, taxes, grants, or reserves. Term is limited to 3 years of this bylaw, so it expires in September 8th, 2028, in compliance with the Municipal Government Act. And it repeals the outdated bylaw 486. Interest is only paid on amounts actually borrowed, calculated daily, payable monthly. Costs are managed through general operations with no additional staffing impacts, and is fully compliant with sections 251 and 256 of the MGA. It strengthens financial stewardship and ensures operational continuity. So tonight, the recommended motions are second reading of bylaw 531, a unanimous consent to consider third reading tonight, and a third reading of bylaw 531. Happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm just curious, when have we ever used it? We do this annually, yet we have a very strong, we're strong financial, we have reserves, yet we go through the same process every year.
Yeah, well, this will keep the line of credit active for 3 years, and we have used it once since I've been here in 2023. And it was at a time where we had high investments, and we invested excess cash from taxes in September for 6 months. And there was a little time period from when the 6 month ended, and we actually needed cash. So it allowed us to make more interest during that time period. So we have used it once, and the interest was nominal, but it was well worth the investment revenue that we made. And the timing, April is our toughest month for cash flow, just because it's just prior to the tax notices going out and people starting to pay taxes. So that spring, April, May is the time we've typically used it over the years, short periods.
Councillor Connick.
It's always good to have a backup plan. I would so move that council gives second reading to bylaw 531 as presented.
Do we have any other input? Please go ahead and vote. The second reading for bylaw 531 is supported unanimously. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 531 at the same meeting as the second reading.
Not seeing any additional input, so please vote on that item. And motion to consider third reading at the same meeting as the second bylaw was unanimously supported, therefore enabling that possibility. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll make that motion that council gives third reading to bylaw 531 as presented.
Thank you. I always wonder when we discuss this, if members of the public are shocked at the lack of discussion here, but I truly do think that because of the methods that we utilize for these funds, you're not used flippantly and not often, but when you need them, and having them available, in fact, is important. So for that reason, yeah, I think that's probably what's causing some of the lack of input. In any event, that is before us now. Thank you, Councillor Gullickson. Please proceed to vote. And that item is for third reading of bylaw 531 is unanimously endorsed as well. Director P. Shea, it's back to you with item 6.5, the emergency management plan.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Before council this evening is the emergency management plan for consideration by council. So the emergency management plan is required under Alberta's Emergency Management Act. It ensures that municipalities can prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies. The plan replaces the city's previous framework to align with the updated legislation, hazard assessments, and provincial expectations. It is designed as a living document, reviewed annually by our Emergency Advisory Committee, with major revisions to be referred back to council. The current Lacombe Emergency Advisory Committee consists of Councillor Ross, Councillor Hibbs, and Mayor Creasy, and they have reviewed this document at least 2 times at advisory meetings. I can go through the plan if you wish, or we can just maybe do some highlights of it if you would prefer. It's a pretty lengthy plan.
I was just going to say that that is a very lengthy plan. I would prefer some highlights, but open to input from everyone else too.
Certainly.
Not seeing a lot of disagreement there.
Okay, I'll just give some highlights of it. Thank you. So the introduction and administration side of it, it states that the purpose of the purpose and scope of the EMP and its all hazards approach. It emphasizes the coordination of the city and partner resources and confirms this plan as a living and continually updated document. We go into the response section where it details certain activations, notifications, and implementation procedures and describes incident command structure, public alerting, evacuation, and reentry. It provides guidance for the declaring of a state of local emergency and demobilization, and also recognizes our mutual aid and regional coordination. In section 2, we go into the contacts, and it lists a lot of our key city officials, emergency services, utilities, provincial and federal partners, and NGOs or non-governmental organizations. It also ensures quick access to decision makers and supporting organizations. We go into our facilities in section 3, which identifies the critical emergency facilities of where our ECC or Emergency Coordination Center, Incident Command Post, and Reception Center or Evacuation Centers will be. They outline the roles of the social services and our community partners as well. Under section 4 is the hazard specific response plans. And they're based on our hazard identification and risk assessment process that we go through each year. It prioritizes with major risks of floods, fires, severe weather, hazardous spills, and health emergencies and utility failures. And then it provides a few detailed guidance for each hazard. So there's actual checklists in that area for things that could occur. Section 5 is the recovery section, and it describes the transition from a response to a recovery, and it includes restoring operations, supporting residents, economic stabilization, and debris cleanup, and also requires after-action reviews to capture lessons learned. Section 6 is our preparedness and mitigation, and it requires the annual training exercises and full-scale testing for every 4 years. This aligns with our provincial legislation And it highlights any public education and risk reduction initiatives that we do. Sorry. In section 7 is our governance. It clarifies the roles of council and the Emergency Advisory Committee and the Director of Emergency Management. It outlines the governance and authority during emergencies. And then section 8 is the plan development and maintenance, and it establishes review and updates requirements and updates that occur after incidents and exercises or legislative changes. And these major revisions will go to the advisory committee and then to council if there's any major changes. In the appendix, we include a lot of the forms that we would use during an emergency through our ICS system. And then it also provides other plans that would be developed. We have an emergency social services plan that's just in the process of being developed. And then we'll also include the evacuation and reentry and communication plan in those as well. If there are any questions, I am happy to take any at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Piche. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just as the chair of this specific committee, I just really want to give acknowledgement to the amount of work that administration has put onto this. Lots of drafts, really good consideration of what the actual risks are, things that needed to be included, things that maybe shouldn't be included going forward so that it's easier to keep it a living document, yes, but accurate as well, because you don't want to be providing information that's incorrect. It's really important in a community like ours. We're at a crossroads of some major highways. We also have a railroad that goes through town. In some aspects, we have a high degree of hazard. It's unlikely that it's going to happen, but if it does go wrong, it's going to go potentially significantly wrong. So I really appreciate that we have a really robust plan here. Of course, we have a really strong partnership with our regional partners as well, so that because people have to remember that we are a receiving area if there's a disaster or something in the general area, and that we may end up having to rely on another municipality if we were to have something catastrophic happen downtown, because potentially where we have ideas to set up shop wouldn't actually be suitable. So these were really good discussions. I really appreciate the amount of work that went into this. This is really important for our community to have something strong like this in place so that we are really prepared and that we're practicing it, both tabletop and live exercises. I really appreciate the involvement, obviously, of our auxiliary forces like fire department, police department, because those are all really important when responding to disasters. So I would move that council accepts the City of Lacombe Emergency Management Plan as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Piche. I had one citizen ask why there were so many changes with the directorship for the management agency, and I said that, or they said, well, how come you just don't put down their titles because they're all city related? And I said that there are some government requirements that demand that an actual human being be listed, not just a position. Perhaps you'd care to elaborate on that so everybody knows why it happens this way.
This is in the appointment side of things that you're speaking of, I believe. Yes. So one of the things is that when you go into an emergency, you kind of take your hat off at the door. And when you're put into those roles, you're put into a role that is within the incident command system structure and not specifically based on what your role is in the city at times. So there will be times where somebody, such as maybe as a director as myself, will be in a role that I would have direction from another staff member who is in a role that isn't at the level of a director. So it could change either way that way. But we just need the bodies who have the experience and have the training, and guaranteed that we do have a lot of them here. Yeah.
Thank you. Very good. We have the motion before us. Any other input? Please go ahead and vote. And that is endorsed unanimously. Thanks, everyone. There was a hope for some additional motions there, or no? Very good. If I was on the right one, it wouldn't matter. Very good. I was going to blend 5.5 and 5.6 or 6.5 and 6.6 together. So please continue, Director Piche.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. It is an excellent segue, the question that you asked there. So this evening before council is appointments for our DEM or Director of Emergency Management and our Deputy DEMs, Deputy Directors of Emergency Management. So through our Lacombe Emergency Management Agency, those two positions or multiple positions in the deputy role, they are responsible for preparing plans, procedures, and responding to emergencies or major incidents. The agency members are key personnel who help lead the response and the recovery during emergencies in the city of Lacombe. And the Lacombe Emergency Management Agency operates under the city's Emergency Management Bylaw 369 and the Alberta Emergency Management Act. So the Director of Emergency Management, they're traditionally held by the Fire Chief and has served as our Deputy Emergency Management, or DEM, as I'll refer to from here on in. Through the past 2 years, though, the CAO has filled that role. So under Section 11 of the Act, the DEM must prepare and coordinate emergency plans and programs, act as a Director of Emergency Operations, coordinate all emergency services, resources, and during emergencies, and then perform all other duties as prescribed by Council. Bylaw 369 allows the DEM to delegate those responsibilities. However, now that our Fire Chief has been much more established in his role, it is recommended that he be appointed as our DEM and be removed as a Deputy DEM. And then it is up to Council to formally appoint the DEM. As for the deputy DEMs, we like to have a number of them in rotation. We focus on people who have certain specialties, and then we also will rotate if there's anybody who is on call, so that there's always somebody available to respond to emergencies at any given time. At this point, with the removal of CAO Gowdy from being the DEM and Chief Fleming as a deputy DEM right now. The other two current deputy DEMs in place right now is Jordan Thompson, Director of Strategy and Capital Delivery, and myself, the Director of Corporate and Protective Services. What we do recommend is adding to the deputy DEM roles the addition of CAO Gowdy, Director Halderson, Mike Regier, our Deputy Fire Chief, Ryan Foyer, our Assistant Deputy Fire Chief, and Jennifer Peterson, who is our Executive Assistant to Corporate and Protective Services. Recommended to rescind the appointments as Deputy DEMs is for Guy Lapointe, our previous Director of Community Services, Jason Fleming, our current Fire Chief, Derek Graff, our previous Deputy Fire Chief, and Twyla Hale, our previous Senior Manager for People Services. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time. Thank you.
Could you repeat those appointments, please? You did very well listing off those names and positions. Thank you for that. Council, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Of this list, obviously in D, their former staff, would we not appoint the new police chief in this list?
So we did ask him at this time. He is under a lot of learning pressures right now, and we didn't want to put a lot more pressure on him at this point. Police also usually run within a different response system when it comes to emergencies for themselves. So we would look at both of those, and it is a possibility for sure.
I think not unlike our current fire chief. I think the little time to adjust to a position like that is certainly in order, but I appreciate the reasoning behind it. Councillor Dallas?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll make motion 1A that council appoints Fire Chief Jason Fleming as Director of Emergency Management for the city of Lacombe. And then may I just ask a question?
Certainly.
Do the majority of the members on this list have ICS 400? Or is that kind of a requirement to be listed here?
So the requirement is actually ICS 300 and then a DEM, or Director of Emergency Management course as well. The majority of them do, and if not, they have within 6 months to be able to get that course under their belt after being appointed.
Great, thank you. Yeah, no, good for you. That's like a doctorate compared to ICS 100, so congratulations. Thank you.
Any additional questions or thoughts on this item? Please proceed to vote. And that is endorsed unanimously. Thank you, Chief Fleming. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. Just moving down the list then, I move that council rescind the appointment of Matthew Gowdy, Chief Administrative Officer, as the Director of Emergency Management for the city of Lacombe. And may I also ask a question?
You may.
So following this, we right away have to amend the report that we just passed. Is that correct, Director Piche? Because these people are named in that report, or that, so then, and that would just be an automatic thing following
Yes,
this?
It's those type of administrative changes that would be part of the living document that we would just make the changes to.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for reminding everyone of that. That was going to be my comment too, that's why that is a living document, because there are changes ongoing forever, for sure. Anyone else? Please go ahead and vote. And that is endorsed unanimously as well. I don't necessarily think that congratulations are in order for CAO Gowdy, but that's that's one huge responsibility transferred to others. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Next one on the list, I would so move that council appoints the role of Deputy Directors of Emergency Management for the city of Lacombe to the following: Matthew Gowdy, Chief Administrative Officer; Doug Halderson, Director of Operations; Mike Regier, Deputy Fire Chief; Ryan Fourier, Assistant Deputy Fire Chief; and Jennifer Peterson, Executive Assistant of Corporate and Protective Services.
Well done, Councillor Connick. Thank you. I see no other input, so please proceed to vote. And that is endorsed unanimously as well. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I go forward with D, that council rescind the appointment of the Deputy Directors of Emergency Management for the city of Lacombe from the following: Jason Fleming, Fire Chief; Twyla Hale, former Human Resources Senior Manager; Gila Point, former Director of Community Services; Derek Graff, former Deputy Fire Chief; Lauren Bloomhagen, former Police Chief.
And I think there might be one more on the page following if you'd care to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Michelle Kirsten, former Community Safety Liaison.
Thank you. And no one input on that item either. Very good. Please go ahead and vote. And those rescindments are approved unanimously as well. Make sure I miss any. All right. Director Piche, you're on a roll here, so let's move into 6.7, the fire station site review and selection process.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. As you mentioned before council tonight is the fire station site review and process. So since 2022, the city of Lacombe has been working to identify a new fire station site to replace the existing downtown facility, which is privately owned and no longer meets the long-term needs. Administration has completed surveys, response time studies, land reviews, and even advanced preparations for the Woodland Drive site. However, community concerns about traffic and consultation led council in August to direct that a review be expanded to ensure all potential sites are fully considered and that residents have meaningful opportunities to provide input. To guide this expanded review, administration has developed a structured process that is supported by a specialized consultant. It begins with reviewing all past work to ensure nothing is overlooked, followed by validating the evaluation framework and creating a short list of up to 5 candidate sites for council's confirmation. Once confirmed, the public engagement will include an open house or stakeholders outreach with feedback summarized in a what we heard report. This feedback combined with technical analysis will narrow the options to the top 2 or 3 sites. From there, the fire department will conduct some mock emergency deployments to test how each location performs under real world conditions. And finally, all findings, technical, operational, and community-based, will be combined into one recommendation for council in the March 2026 timeframe is what we were thinking. The decision will then be supported by a communication campaign so residents understand the process and outcome. And then overall, this approach will ensure that the fire station selection is transparent, defensible, and aligned with Lacombe's long-term emergency service needs. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
Thank you, Director Piche. Councilor Ross, you can go first.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. With all due respect to council administration, this has been probably the most difficult agenda item in both of my terms. And actually, I completely, fully support this process. As much as studies can be frustrating the cost, looking back upon the process, in hindsight, I feel we should have broke down each possible site in far more detail to deliver the information to the citizens of what sites we were discussing. But I would like to see, and to whomever does doing the study, is that there is no perfect site, but a site can work with a change of infrastructure as a change in the street, whichever site located, to make that site work better. And I think that's one area that we could have improved for delivering information that, it could have, there's going to be adjustments or change of infrastructure wherever location. And I would really like to see that included in the study as drawings to give the citizens a visual perception of this site can work with this change of infrastructure, so we can build some confidence with, after the report, that we're making a good decision. Because right now it's perceptions without changes, and we could have done far better. We've beat this up for 3 years, but this is the right way to do it, and I fully support this.
Thank you. CEO Gowdy, I don't know that it's possible to include those type of infrastructure possibilities and changes and associated costs on every site, but is that a reasonable expectation as the field of interest is narrowed down to the 5 or further? When would you see that type of more detailed information becoming available for council's consideration?
Yeah, I think for sure for the final 3, if there are specific infrastructure changes that would be needed to facilitate the safe and efficient movement of the fire services in that location, that would be a front and center recommendation with supporting concept drawings, costs, that sort of thing. depending on the site. But for sure, if there's some infrastructure changes that would make that a better site, that today it's not good, but with this little change it could, that'll be identified and made really clear.
Thank you. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I really struggle with this one, and I really think we went through a good process, and I cannot leave with this $70,000 tab and going forward. So I guess my question is to city administration, is there any way you can accommodate this within what you do? I'm hearing no, but I guess I can't endorse a $70,000 tab. The citizens are up in arms about a lot of stuff right now, and this would just put them over the edge. So I appreciate the effort here. I appreciate how maybe we failed. I don't like that word. Maybe we could have communicated more clearly to the citizens, but I'm not comfortable with hiring someone to do this.
Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Well, I think everybody knows how I feel about consultants, but because I know our staff does a great job. But in this case, this is their largest building that we're going to be putting in Lacombe for a number of years. It's going to be a 50-year structure or longer, serving the needs of our community and surrounding area. It's extremely important to us. So I want to make sure we have it at the best location possible. And if it costs us this amount of money, it does, even though I think that we may be able to handle it internally, like Councillor Hoekstra said. But I want to make sure we get the right decision. It is really important. And I will be voting for this.
Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I too will support this motion. I think it's a great use of funds. I think we're doing a disservice to the next council if we don't do this, because no disrespect to the 3 incumbents who are running, but we could see a council of 6 brand new councillors. And I think they need as much information as they can. We have struggled with this for the last number of years, and for whatever reason, we're not, I don't want to call it a stalemate, but we haven't figured out the sites. So I think this is, yeah, it's a little pricey, but again, I think to give them this new council, this next council, all the information they can get to make that decision going forward, I think will be very helpful for them. And quite frankly, this could have been helpful for us, to be honest, just to have that outside perspective to say, no, this site couldn't possibly work, or yes, this one is better than that. You know, I think it'd be very helpful. So I support it 100%.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I'm happy to support this. I think it's going to be, 0.5% to maybe 0.75% of the overall cost of the facility, and I think that's a reasonable expectation to spend on something like this. Probably my most excited thing to see on this is in the timeline, and it is the public communication campaign to support. And it says council's final site decision, but I think in this case, it'll be the community's and council's final site decision. And so I think that's really important on this. And I think that's going to offer a lot of value. So thank you.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I will not be supporting this, and the reason being is I think we actually have all this information. We just didn't share it with the public soon enough, and so I don't really see the value in adding another $70,000. Does that put strain on administration to some degree? It probably does, because you need to package these up so that it's properly, that it's suitable for, I guess, public consumption. But this should be the same information that we already have. And if it isn't, then that's a problem. Why did we make a decision? So I will not be supporting the 70,000, but I wholeheartedly support making this whole process a lot more transparent, and so that we have true accountability to the public and they can feel like they're involved in a major decision like this. And I look forward to, I guess it would be the next council's decision on this.
So this was an interesting one for me. Like many of you, I'm not a huge fan of these additional costs for studies and whatnot. In this particular case, I think it's very much warranted. we were very much told by the community that this was not the proper location for a variety of reasons. I think to go back and go through this process with similar input, although I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with a lot of the input that we received from our current administration, to not give them all the tools at their disposal to be able to come up with a proper decision, I don't think sends a very good message. So I am prepared to endorse this additional work and enable both administration and council to make a decision that's correct for our community. Yes, $70,000 is a lot of money. However, given the cost of this overall structure, we need to get it right and get it in the correct location. So, yeah, a necessary thing that I really don't see any other path in order to have it done acceptably as we go ahead. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Kind of echo Councillor Hibbs' same comments as it's going to be very interesting to see how much of the information is going to be repeated, because our own fire department members also did their own trials based upon locations. But yet sometimes that third party engagement takes council and administration out of the factor, and you hope that that information to the citizens is informed, great information. It is a lot of money, and this is one of the biggest investments in this community for many years ahead. And we're going to get scrutiny for whatever site we pick, but yet, because already there's further discussions and people I've talked to of other locations is, where are we going into residential? What infrastructure changes to make that work? What rules are we going to put in place of the sirens? Are they going to follow them rules? I get them questions now regularly. So, but I still will support this. I hope there's a lot of engagement throughout the community that have been strongly, and this is the best due diligence for this impact of this service. Thank you.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll make the recommended motion that council directs administration to engage an emergency services specialist to provide additional expertise and a fresh perspective on the City of Lacombe Fire Station site review process at a cost of up to $70,000 funded from the general operating reserve.
Thank you. Any last moment thoughts before we go to vote? Seeing none, please go ahead and vote. So with a margin of 5-2, that item is endorsed by council. Councillors Hoekstra and Hibbs voting no on that item. And the next item up, I think Manager Mitchell is with us for this item 6.8. Under request for decision, Community Builder Partnership grant application for Lacombe Disc Golf Association. And whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council. This evening, Council is asked to consider the Lacombe Disc Golf Association's Community Builder Partnership grant application. In 2023, the Lacombe District Recreation, Parks and Culture Board approved a $9,000 grant from the 2023 Community Builder Partnership Fund to support the development of an 18-hole championship-level disc golf course on Burman University grounds. That original application played an important role in allowing the association to formally establish itself, complete planning, and leverage funding from other organizations and sponsors. The City of Lacombe was one of the first contributors to get on board, which helped to legitimize the project and gave the group credibility as they pursued additional sponsors and grants. This project has progressed significantly, but has also faced higher than expected costs. Increased expenses for T-pad development, baskets, landscaping, more clearing than expected, and signage have pushed the total project budget to just under $73,000. This fall, the Lacombe Disc Golf Association submitted a new application for an additional $9,000 from the 2025 Community Builder Partnership Fund. Combined with the 2023 allocation, this would bring the city's contribution to $18,000, slightly less than the 25% of the project costs and consistent with the program's funding guidelines. During their September 4th meeting, the Lacombe District Recreation, Parks and Culture Board unanimously passed a motion to recommend Council approve an additional grant of $9,000 from the Community Builder Partnership Fund to the Lacombe Disc Golf Association to complete their disc golf course. The Lacombe Disc Golf Association has already secured substantial external funding and is now seeking this final contribution from the city, which is expected to be matched by Lacombe County. Together, these funds will ensure the course is completed to a high standard and that 2 years of maintenance are covered. Administration is recommending that Council approve an additional grant of $9,000 from the Community Builder Partnership Fund to the Lacombe Disc Golf Association, bringing the total grant amount to $18,000 to support the development of their disc golf course. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. Councillor Ross?
As I'm on the rec board, and it's wonderful to see another group of volunteers to bring another activity and club that benefits our city. I'd like to make the motion that Council approve an additional grant of $9,000 from the Community Builder Partnership Fund to the Lacombe Disc Golf Association, bringing the total grant amount to $18,000 to support the development of their disc golf course.
So as I was going through this item, I noticed there's a fair bit of community buy-in with a number of companies that have going to put their money where their mouth is in this item, which is great to see. I just wanted to ensure that with this $9,000 and an expected similar amount from the county at $18,000, that does ensure the completion of this project in addition to some ongoing maintenance funds. So, but is the actual completed, ready to be used?
Yes, in their budget, they actually have included $18,000, which would be the county contribution for the 2-year maintenance costs. So they will be able to complete this. And if, for example, they didn't get the matching grant from the county, they would still have 1 year of maintenance. In addition, they've created a sponsorship program for individual holes that is going to be providing ongoing maintenance support beyond those 2 years as the course continues to grow in popularity and sponsors are more confident in getting their name out there. Not sure if that answers your question or not.
Well, no, it does, but it begs an additional question then. So in fact, they do have enough to complete the course now. However, they're being proactive in securing funds for ongoing maintenance as opposed to waiting for applying next year.
That's correct. But they've already had the $9,000 from the county going towards the maintenance for future years. So that's what that money's been allocated for. So they'd need the additional $9,000 from the city to allocate it towards the finishing of the construction of the course, because that money has been earmarked for, according to their grant application to the county, for the maintenance. Like the Community Builder Partnership for the City of Lacombe for capital projects doesn't allow for maintenance costs. So that's where the county is going to throw in the maintenance if the city does the construction.
With each of those entities throwing in the total or contributing $18,000.
That's correct. Okay. The county has already approved $9,000, which the city did approve.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just wanted to point out a few things. Echo Energy is one of the sponsors of this, was an early adopter as well. Definitely saw the value of this project. I just wanted to further what Councillor Ross said about volunteers and bringing something unique and really cool to Lacombe. And I do want to give an extra shout out to the person that really was behind this initiative is a young person. And I think that's really inspiring and astounding that somebody who's that driven to deliver on a large project like this. Obviously, we can see the dollar value, but also just the amount of work that's gone into this, organizing volunteers, and it's really impressive. And then finally, my final comment is just on a walk the other day around the lake, which of course is right next to the course. I swear every single hole was in play because I could hear the chains rattling of course, as they're throwing their discs. So it's really good to see that something like that is obviously very popular and being used already. And again, it's just really inspirational to see somebody have a really good idea, maybe get it together, a few people have some support, and then it turns into a big project like that that's beneficial for our community. So well done.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So the 2 years is covered for maintenance, but I'm curious what the future looks like. Who owns this course? Who will look at it in 2 years' time to maintain it?
Excellent question. Yes, there is a land use agreement between Burman University and the Lacombe Disc Golf Association. So they have committed to continuing the upkeep on the Burman University grounds. And so that's where their sponsorship program for the different holes will continue. So it's $500 per business per a set amount of time per each hole. So it's not in perpetuity. It allows for them to continue reselling the sponsorship as long as the Disc Golf Association is in existence to support the course. If that answered your question.
Anyone else? So we do have a motion by Councillor Ross. Anybody need it read back? We're all good with the ask. Very well, please go ahead and vote. And that is endorsed unanimously. Thanks, everyone. So I believe that the majority of our meeting left is in camera. I'll just go through our next meetings. The first two of which are committee of the whole meetings. All meetings are here in council chambers at 5:30 p.m. And as I said, the first committee of the whole meeting is Monday, September 29th. Then again on Monday, October the 6th, followed by a regular council meeting on Tuesday after the long weekend, of course, not on a Monday, on Tuesday, October the 14th. Put those in your calendars. And then I believe that leaves us to in-camera items. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that we move in camera.
Very good. It is 7:09. Please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimous. When we get the indication from Mr. Tomnak, we will be in camera.